This is how to build a hair care routine that gives you amazing results. Part 2. Welcome back to this series where I help you build a minimal, low-effort hair care routine that delivers maximum results. To achieve that, I decided to pick the top 3 product categories that I feel are necessary in any healthy hair care routine and break down how to figure out which products in those categories are going to give your hair the best results. And then after that, I'll share 2 extra products that you can add to your routine to take your hair to the next level, all while keeping this routine capped to just 5 products total. Maximum results with the least amount of product possible. That's the goal. Part 1 of this series was all about shampoo and is listed below if you missed it, which means that today is part 2 and we're diving into the second of 3 product categories that I personally feel are non-negotiable for healthy hair: conditioner, or hair masks, or glosses, basically anything designed to condition your wet hair while in the shower before being rinsed away. And don't worry too much about the technical difference between conditioners and masks and glosses, because I'll break that down a bit later in this video. For now, just know that I am grouping all 3 of those products under the term conditioner or conditioning product to keep this as straightforward and non-repetitive as possible. In order to figure out how to find the right conditioning product for your hair type, it's important for us to understand why we even need conditioning products in the first place. And according to my favorite hair science textbook of all time, the primary purpose of conditioner is to make our hair easier to comb. It does this by depositing conditioning ingredients that lubricate our hair fiber and decreasing the amount of force required to detangle our hair after washing. At least that's what a good conditioner should do. And the reason why that matters so much is because the more force you need to detangle your hair, the more likely you are to end up with damage and breakage. But that's not all, because conditioner can massively impact both the quality and health of our hair in many other ways, including improving softness, smoothness, and shine, minimizing frizz and flyaways, reducing friction and complex tangles, protecting our hair from further damage and breakage, and in some cases, strengthening damage. So the importance of properly conditioning your hair in the shower truly cannot be overstated. And now that we know that, we can talk about things to take into consideration when determining which conditioning products are going to be the best fit for your hair, like hair texture and density. The texture of your hair represents the actual diameter of an individual hair strand on your head and can be categorized as fine, normal, or coarse. Whereas the density of your hair represents the total number of hair strands on your head and can be categorized as thin, normal, or thick. And the reason why I bring these things up is not because I think that you need an official measurement of the cross-section of your hair or that you need to count every single hair strand on your head, but because having a general understanding of both your hair texture and density can help you to understand the results you're experiencing in testing out new conditioning products. Both finer and thinner hair types tend to be more easily weighed down by heavier conditioning products than coarser, thicker hair types do. So if you have fine and or thin hair, you might have noticed that you prefer the results you get in using a conditioning product that is lighter or less viscous than one that is really thick and creamy. But if you have coarse and or thick hair, you've probably had the opposite experience where you feel like really light conditioners don't tend to soften and smooth your hair as much as those that are a bit thicker, creamier, and more viscous. But that's not always the case, because within the past few years, I've noticed that we're continuing to see launches of products that provide deeper levels of conditioning in much more lightweight formats than ever before. And a couple good examples of this are the Dove Bond Strength and L'Oreal Glycolic Gloss masks. Because compared to what we traditionally knew as a deep conditioner or mask, these products don't feel thick, heavy, overly creamy, or buttery at all. Yet they're so intensely conditioning that for some people, their hair feels heavy, waxy, or weighed down after using them. So while the thickness, heaviness, or viscosity of a conditioner, mask, or gloss is definitely a factor to consider, it's not a guaranteed way to determine how conditioning a product will actually be for your hair. And that is something that can be made even more complicated when your hair texture does not seem to correlate with your hair density, meaning that your hair type can't be described as fine and thin or coarse and thick, but instead fine and thick or coarse and thin. So to use myself as an example, my individual hair strands are fine, but I have a lot of them. So I have fine but thick hair. So despite my finer hair strands, my hair often responds really well to thicker, creamier conditioning products because I have high density. And that exact same thing could be true for you if you have coarse but thin hair, or the opposite could be. You may feel like you get better results for your hair type when using something that's lighter in the level of conditioning it delivers, despite the fact that you have coarse hair strands, because you have thinner thinner or less dense hair. It really completely depends on your unique hair type and the products that you are using. So just know that there are no hard set scientific rules about the type of conditioner that you can or can't use as it relates to your hair texture and density. I think people on social media like to try to create these rules around hair, like if you have coarse hair, you have to use a hair mask, or if you have thin hair, you can only use light conditioners. But none of those things are true, and as annoying as it is to say, trial and error is really the best way to figure out what works the best for your hair type and what gives you the results that you're looking for. The next thing to consider, which also falls under this broader umbrella of hair type, is your curl pattern. And similar to what I was just saying about these rules that people like to try to create on social media, there also seems to be this idea that straight, wavy, curly, and coily hair cannot use the same kinds of hair care products because they require a different set of ingredients in order to be healthy. But that's just not the case either. The protective, reparative, conditioning, and strengthening ingredients that benefit straight hair also benefit wavy, curly, and coily hair too, which is actually why we continue to see product lines launched today that say that they are safe for all hair types and curl patterns. For once, that's not marketing BS, that's actually true. But that of course doesn't mean that you can't have a preference for certain products over others based on your curl pattern or based on how your curls look and feel after wash day, because you absolutely can. That's obviously a super important consideration for anybody with curly hair. But this idea that you are only allowed to use certain brands or product lines if you do have curly or coily hair is just not true. So I wanted to make sure that I was clarifying that for any of my curly haired viewers who are feeling a bit lost in the hair care space right now.
I'm a curly girl who's been using the Abby Young method, and I want to share my thoughts on what has worked for me, what hasn't worked for me, and what I plan on continue to use. I think it's true for a lot of curly girls that growing up we were told we can't use products like these.
All of the conditioning products that I'm going to share in this video are completely safe to use if you have wavy, curly, coily, or straight hair. And based on the comments that I've seen from those of you who do have curly hair, it really seems like it's an art to find a conditioning product that conditions to the level you need while allowing your curls to look the way that you want. And that becomes even more of an art when you add texture and density into the equation, which is why, again, trial and error is the best approach to figuring out what works for your unique hair type. Another important consideration when selecting a conditioning product is damage repair and or prevention. And if you have severely damaged hair, I highly recommend using conditioning products that are able to strengthen and repair so that you're getting those benefits while conditioning your hair at the same time. But in saying that, you don't have to have severe damage to benefit from these kinds of products, because they can also help to protect our hair from becoming severely damaged by all of the damaging things that we expose our hair to on a regular basis, like brushing and styling, UV or other environmental stressors, heat and mechanical styling, and chemical treatments like bleaching and dyeing. So to use myself as an example again, I started using bond repair products back when I was struggling with severely bleach damaged hair, and those kinds of products massively helped me in my hair repair journey. But I didn't discontinue the use of those kinds of products when my hair became healthier, because I still expose my hair to damage on a regular basis. I use a heated blow dryer 3 times a week. I heat style on top of that 1 to 3 times a week with something like a curling iron or an air styler. I chemically lighten and dye my hair every few months. I brush it, I mechanically style it. I will work outside or take Elsie on an hour-long walk every day, exposing my hair to environmental stressors and UV. So finding conditioners and masks that are strengthening and reparative is a priority for me, because I want to both repair and protect my hair from the damage that I incur as I go along, so that I never get to that level of extreme damage ever again. Preventative maintenance, I'm all about it. If you don't want to use these kinds of products, you're of course welcome to use whatever works best for you, always. This is just what has worked best for me over the years, and what I also think is really important for anybody who exposes their hair to damage on a regular basis. Okay, now that we have covered the most important considerations for your hair, let's touch on the actual products themselves. Because conditioners are not the only products that can deliver those benefits we talked about earlier, like improving combing ease and detangling, imparting softness, smoothness, and shine, etc. We can also get those exact same kinds of benefits from hair masks and hair glosses. So as long as you're using at least one product to help you to achieve those benefits, it doesn't matter if it's called a conditioner or a mask, because they're doing the exact same thing, conditioning your hair. The biggest difference between conditioners and masks is usually the thickness or viscosity, because conditioners generally tend to be more lightweight than masks, and masks generally tend to be thicker and more viscous than conditioners. But like we talked about earlier, that is not always the case. I've tried super lightweight masks, conditioners that are quite thick and creamy. I've tried conditioners that are more conditioning than masks, masks that are more conditioning than conditioners. It really just comes down to how each individual brand chooses to market each individual product they are selling. And glosses are interesting because I wouldn't have necessarily put them in this category a few years ago, but they have recently evolved quite a bit and can now be incredibly conditioning depending on the gloss that you're using. Two really good examples of this are the L'Oreal Glycolic glosses and the Living Proof gloss. Instead of the liquidy water-like texture that most glosses used to have, all three of these products are more like lightweight conditioners. And I've tested all three of these products as my sole conditioning product on wash day, or like sole in-shower conditioning product, and they all work just as well for me as something that has conditioner on the label. So again, the actual name of the product is less important than the results that you are experiencing in using it. Conditioners, masks, and glosses can all contain the exact same kinds of ingredients that condition, soften, smooth, detangle, and protect our hair. So let's touch on those ingredients quickly. Instead of trying to zero in on specific ingredients to look for in a conditioner, knowing that that's really not a good way to figure out how a product will work for your hair, I thought that it would be helpful to highlight some of the most commonly used ingredients in conditioners to just quickly touch on what purpose they serve in a formula or for our hair. The three main ingredient categories that are responsible for imparting those conditioning qualities to our hair include fatty substances, cationic substances, and silicones. Modified silicones like amodimethicone, bis-PCA dimethicone, and bis-aminopropyl dimethicone are especially exciting because they are able to form a bond with the negative charge of damaged hair and as a result, make our hair even softer, smoother, and more manageable. The next two ingredient categories that can provide additional conditioning benefits include things like oils and butters and proteins and amino acids. The benefits that you get from these kinds of ingredients really do vary, so it's hard to give a blanket statement to them. It depends on each individual ingredient, but in general, I would say that they typically tend to be supplemental or secondary to the results that you're getting from the true conditioning powerhouses in a formula, which is the first category we talked about. These kinds of ingredients are often just highlighted the most because they sound sexier and trendier. Bis-aminopropyl dimethicone definitely doesn't quite roll off the tongue like silk amino acids does. And then we have the rest of the ingredient categories that contribute to a conditioner formula like viscosity builders, pH adjusters, preservatives, and fragrance. And this is by no means meant to be an exhaustive list of all of the ingredients and ingredient categories, but just something I wanted to highlight to point out a lot of the more commonly used ingredients, what you tend to find in a conditioner, and the fact that they all serve a purpose and don't need to be avoided unless, of course, you're allergic to them. Like something that I didn't even cover here that is in all of the products that I'm going to be showing you guys in a second would be a reparative or strengthening complex. That's something I felt like I couldn't even condense on screen like this because it varies so much by brand, by product line, technology. It's something that's often proprietary or trademarked and therefore not publicly known, but that is obviously something that is often a big part of this equation as well. So knowing that we can't just rely on the texture or ingredients to predict how well a product will condition our hair, I wanted to share a list of signs that you can be on the lookout for that indicate that the conditioning product that you are using is not the right fit for your hair type. Number one is if your hair feels heavy, waxy, limp, or weighed down. While this isn't something that will damage your hair, it's obviously not ideal to have your hair look and feel like this. The right conditioner for your hair type will leave it feeling perfectly conditioned without weighing it down. So if this is something that you're experiencing after washing your hair, you could try to opt for conditioners that are lighter and or fewer conditioning products. Like if your hair feels like this after using both a conditioner and a mask in the same wash, then you could try to use just a conditioner or just a mask and see if that solves it. If it doesn't, then you may need to try something even lighter. Or you may need to clarify your hair. That's a whole other subject. See video 1 in the series. Number 2, your hair looks rough, dry, brittle, or dull. While some of these things are inevitable to a certain extent if you have extreme damage, for the most part, they're all things that can be at least improved by using something that conditions your hair better. And the last red flag to be on the lookout for is if your hair is excessively tangly and difficult to brush through after washing and super prone to tangling between wash days. Again, some of this is just the the unfortunate reality of severe damage, but it's something I wanted to bring up because this is often my experience now as somebody who does not have severely damaged hair in using conditioning products that are silicone free. Not always, because like the Living Proof Gloss, for example, is something that's silicone free, but often because my hair is just not conditioned well enough. And the reason why I know that is because on my next wash day, when I go back to using one of my favorite silicone containing conditioners, the issue is immediately resolved. So if you notice these things happening to your hair after washing, that is a really good sign that it's time to find a new conditioner that gives you all of the benefits we talked about at the start of this video, which is basically soft, smooth, shiny hair that is easy to brush through. Okay, let's dive into product recommendations. I do already have deep dives on my favorite products in these categories, so I am going to list those videos below if you want to hear the full details like ingredients, smells, textures, etc. Smells, fragrance is what I meant. But because the purpose of this video is to help you to figure out which of these products will work the best for you, I am going to categorize these products by the level of conditioning that they deliver your hair, from lightest to heaviest. So the lightest options that you are probably going to like the best if you have fine and or thin hair include the Eliza Vecca CER-100 Collagen Ceramide Coating Protein Treatment, the Not Your Mother's Tough Love Bonding Conditioner, the Garnier Hair Filler Strength Repair Conditioner, and the Pantene Miracle Rescue Deep Repair Conditioner. The next set of options are the in-between, so not in the lightest category, not in the heaviest. First is the Pantene Miracle Rescue Intensive Bond Repair Mask. Second is both the Dove Intensive Repair Conditioner and Dove Intensive Repair Mask. For this specific system, the conditioner is definitely lighter than the mask, and the conditioner is something that I also could have put in the lightest category, but because of the patented technology that Dove uses in these kinds of products, I do feel like the conditioning is just a little bit more intense than you get in that lightest category, even though the texture of this is incredibly lightweight. Third is the Pureology Strength Cure Conditioner. And last for the in-between is the L'Oreal Everpure Glossing 5-Minute Lamination Mask. This is one that I could actually also put in the heaviest category, but not because of the texture itself. This has, like I was saying earlier, more of like a runny conditioner texture. But if I use a lot of this on wash day, it's intensely conditioning and the results that I get are really on par with some of my heavier options. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention the glossing conditioner. So this is something that just became a more recent favorite of mine, so it's not in my favorite conditioner or hair masks video. This is also one I'd put in this in-between category. I do think that the lamination mask is more intensely conditioning, but this still just gives my hair such amazing smoothness and shine. So good. And for the heaviest category, where we have options that are thick and creamy or just intensely conditioning, first is the OGX Bond Protein Repair 1-Minute Treatment Mask. Second is the L'Oreal Bond Repair Conditioner. Third is the Dove Bond Strength Conditioner and Dove Bond Strength Mask. Same thing here, the conditioner is lighter, but both of these are intensely conditioning. And yes, this is rhinestoned. I got that in a PR package a while ago. I thought it was so cute. Next is the Redken Acidic Bonding Concentrate Conditioner. And last is the Amika the Cure Conditioner and the Amika the Cure Mask. Again here, the mask is the thicker option. This is the thickest, most buttery, most creamy out of any of the conditioning products in this video. The conditioner is definitely not quite on that level, but still something that I would consider to have a bit of a heavier, almost like balmier feel than a lot of the lighter options. When it comes to how I actually use these kinds of products on wash day, it really varies and just depends on how my hair's feeling, what I want to reach for, and the rest of the products that I'm using in my routine that day. So that might mean that I'm using just one of these conditioners, or just one of these masks, or just L'Oreal Gloss, or a combination of two products like a conditioner and a mask, a gloss and a conditioner, or a gloss and a mask. And depending on what I'm using, I'll typically leave it in my hair for about 3 to 10 minutes before rinsing. So if I feel like my hair is drier than normal, I might reach for something that gives me deeper conditioning and leave it in for a full 10 minutes before rinsing, and then follow up with a conditioner or a gloss and leave that in for a few minutes before rinsing again. Or I might do a mask for 5 minutes and a conditioner for 5 minutes, or just a conditioner for 6 minutes, or just a mask for 3. The point I'm making here is just that I don't have specific rules about the types of conditioning products that you have to use together and the order in which you have to use them and the amount of time that you have to leave each of those in your hair, because I don't even do the same thing every time. So much of it just depends depends on your hair that day and the rest of your routine that day. And because I have tested out so many different products and product combining methods and application techniques over the years, I can confidently say that I truly do not think there is a right or wrong answer here. I've used a mask before a conditioner with good results. I've used a conditioner before a mask with good results. Like I said, I've also used a gloss as my only conditioner with good results. Hopefully, if anything, this just gives you some reassurance to make the decision that works the best for you, knowing that there are a lot of different ways, products, techniques, methods that can give you incredible results every time. I actually think it would be really misleading to suggest that there's like one rule here for conditioning, because there are just too many variables in this equation for there to only be one possible solution. So truly, I swear to you, my only rule when it comes to this is to use at least one of these conditioning products after shampoo and leave it in my hair for at least 3 minutes before rinsing, because that is something that I do think is a requirement for healthy hair, which is why it was part 2 in this series. And if you want to know the third and final product category that I think is a non-negotiable for a healthy hair care routine, stay tuned. That's on deck.